One of the points I've been making in the past couple of days is about how people who are inside a safety bubble, who are wealthy, screech all day and night about how bad things are, but as soon as they get threatened, as soon as their safety is threatened, they immediately change their tune. All of a sudden, now they're really concerned. I've got two stories for you. One, just kind of a highlight, because you all know guns are being bought up in droves. Weapons and other supplies are being bought up in droves. But we have this story from The Hill. Mexico under international criticism for coronavirus response. Wait a minute. What do you mean international criticism? I thought Trump was a bigot because he wanted to close the border down, because he wanted to stem migration and illegal immigration. I remember when Trump and Trump supporters were talking about the potential for diseases to come up through the migrant caravans and through the southern border. At the time, they were called racist for it. But now that we're facing a global pandemic, the international community agrees. Mexico has unsanitary conditions. They're not doing the right thing. And, well, they're criticizing Mexico. I find it funny. You know why? What I see here is in line with the statistics about progressives and conservatives. The Hidden Tribes report that I love to cite shows that progressive activists in this country tend to be college-educated individuals, white, who make over $100,000 a year. It's no surprise that these people are advocating for these policies that they will not be affected by. Saying, why don't you, middle-class, poor American whose town is dying because your manufacturing plant shut down, why don't you allow illegal immigrants to come and work alongside you, displace your jobs, and get access to your health care? They don't seem to understand. Now that the threat is staring them in the face, all of a sudden the tune is changing. See, at the time they said, well, I have health care. I can get whatever I want. I have nothing to worry about, which is why you see so many celebrities on the left. They're super rich and in a bubble and safe. But now that the pandemic is here, and many of these celebrities are getting it, all of a sudden now international response is, whoa, 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 Mexico. And in California, I kid you not, people are lining up around the blocks to buy guns in like Los Angeles County of all places. Now, I get it. There are areas of California where you got some conservatives and people who like hunting and two-way defenders, all that stuff, right? I get it. But LA County? Yeah, that's Los Angeles, man. These are the places that vote overwhelmingly for gun control. All of a sudden now they're like, well, now that I'm in trouble, yeah, we get it. You didn't care about the weakest up until the threat was pointed in your direction. The Hill reports, international observers and opposition leaders are warning that Mexico's government is failing to take the coronavirus crisis seriously, risking a major eruption just as the rest of the world takes drastic steps to recover. The country's hands-off approach has already sparked tensions with El Salvador, whose president blocked a flight Monday from Mexico City to San Salvador, citing subpar sanitary safeguards in Mexico. Hey, El Salvador, now you're starting to sound like Trump. Come on, that's bigotry, isn't it? In a discussion played out over Twitter, Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele and Mexican Foreign Secretary Marcelo Ebrard debated the Mexican government's capacity to immediately diagnose several of the plane's passengers. The discussion ended with Bukele begging Mexico to take drastic and overwhelming measures amid this pandemic. Mexico is a very big country, and so should be its responsibility. Otherwise, in 20 days, the epicenter of this pandemic will not be Europe, but North America, added Bukele. Stop looking at this as something normal, please. Oh, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Mexico is not doing anything, or not doing enough. So sure enough, they will see a massive spike in coronavirus cases. Then Donald Trump will say, we just got to get a hold on what's happening with this pandemic, and we can figure things out. We're going to shut the border down. And guess what the people in America are going to say? You got it, buddy, because the threat's facing them. So long. Look, Canada and the United States are taking preventative measures, rather serious ones. Not so much Mexico. They say the Mexican federal government has refused to impose national sanitary measures, instead relying on a public service announcement campaign to promote social distancing and hand washing. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador has drawn the ire of many observers by continuing his campaign-style rallies where he often walks into the audience to hug and kiss his supporters. Hey, man, he's a man of the people. One image where López Obrador appears to playfully bite a young girl's cheek has been especially poorly received. Obrador is under fire for his blasé attitude about the coronavirus. He is leaving border states and towns picking up the slack. Many won't be able to do so, wrote Adam Isaacson, the director of defense oversight for the Washington office on Latin America, in an email to The Hill. While a handful of Mexican states have imposed stricter measures like immediate school closures, at the federal level, Children will still be required to attend school until Monday, when an early spring break will begin. Some Mexican states are in a better position to fend for themselves, but in others, including Tamaulipas, is that how you pronounce it? On the border with Texas, the situation is less clear. Tamaulipas. Isaacson, a Latin American security specialist, wrote that he doesn't even have a good sense of what local authorities are doing and whether the security situation will hamper response. Tamaulipas, a state that includes the border cities of Matamoros across from Brownsville, Nuevo Laredo across from Laredo, and Reynosa across from McAllen, has been among the states hardest hit by the narco violence and long waits for prospective U.S. asylum seekers in camps. And I'll stop there and say, asylum camps are shut down. Immigration is not being processed right now. So that's going to be exacerbated, all these problems with much more denser populations in these areas. These people are not going to get in, so they're going to be where they are. More people, more virus, more unsanitary conditions, I suppose. I do want to briefly just show this. Most of you have already seen the story. You may be stocking up on toilet paper. Others are out buying guns. You can't shoot a virus, but that's not what people who are lining up for guns and ammo are worried about. What they're worried about is people who are being denied entry, who are becoming desperate, who might rush the border, who might threaten them and their family amid a complete and total breakdown. Mexico is not taking the same precautions as everyone else. And so we may have to close the southern border. Surprisingly, we closed the northern border with Canada, which I find strange considering Mexico is not doing enough and everyone's freaking out about it. You'd think Trump would come out and say so, but there's been talks. So immigration is being processed anyway. We'll see what happens. But if this gets bad, don't be surprised when those people who hate Trump come out and start agreeing with him. Here's what they say. And then there's a situation in the migrant shelters and camps where the tens of thousands of victims of metering and remain in Mexico are, wrote Isaacson, referring to the Trump administration's asylum policies that have fueled the growth of refugee camps along the Mexican side of the international border. It will be an absolute miracle if the virus doesn't sweep through those shelters and camps like a genuine plague. And I don't see preparations for that underway. When chickenpox swept through the Mexican government shelter in Juarez over the holidays, they just closed it for a few days. I don't see what good that will do. Even as critics accused the government of underplaying the situation, the official count of infections rose drastically from 53 Sunday to 82 Monday, hitting a rising wave of contagion. Mexico City Mayor Claudia Sheinbaum, a close ally of Lopez Obrador, has refused to shut down large gatherings. What are you doing, man? Now are people going to start waking up to why Donald Trump has concerns about hygiene and medicine and infection from countries like Mexico? And he's not even, for the most part, talking about Mexico. Sometimes, but also Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. But even El Salvador is criticizing Mexico. Come on, man. Even as critics accuse the government of underplaying, I read that. Let's move on. Over the weekend, a massive music festival known as the Vive Latino took place in the Mexican capital, and Sheinbaum refused to say whether she'll shut down a reenactment of the Passion of the Christ that's been held for the last 177 years in the eastern borough of Iztapalapa, according to El Heraldo newspaper. But the Mexican federal government has cut down activities in its 50 consulates across the United States to a bare minimum, under orders from Mexican Ambassador Martha Bárcena. According to a Mexican embassy spokesman, the world's largest single country consular network has most of its employees working from home and is only providing emergency services as needed. And Mexican sanitary authorities have been meeting to discuss the crisis with U.S. and Canadian counterparts. According to the spokesman, a teleconference between U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar, Mexican Health Secretary Dr. George Carlos Alcocer Varela, and Canadian Minister of Health Patty Hajdu was scheduled for Tuesday, but it will be held instead on Thursday. We are going to have a lot of people seeking treatment in this country. We can't simultaneously offer up open borders and free healthcare, as most of you know. And this is going to be highlighted as we now watch Mexico begin its collapse into a mighty sea of coronavirus, as China actually put it. Look, man, there was something, I don't know if you guys saw the Smurf reunion thing. Do you see this? Or no, it was a Smurf gathering in France. A bunch of people did like a world record for the most people dressed as Smurfs in a single location. And then sure enough, there was a massive spike in coronavirus infections following this. Now, I don't know if that means following the Smurf, all the Smurf people got sick, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, If there is a novel virus that no one has immunity to and everyone's going to catch and get sick, the last thing you want to do is come out in giant crowds. But apparently, over in Mexico, they don't care all that much. So I'll tell you what's going to happen. Trump's going to say, you know what? We're closing the southern border now too, except for trade. And who is going to be able to complain? Especially after this. They know, they don't care. Why should we be negatively impacted? We shouldn't. It's like what I said about healthcare. Why should I sacrifice along with my community to protect everybody? But then you're going to offer up our medical system, which is under strain, to non-citizens, to people who may be coming from a country like Mexico that's refusing to engage in sanitary practices or more extreme sanitary practices amid the coronavirus. Sorry, man. I'm not playing that game. I'll leave it there. Stick around. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.